welcome to the WorkJoy Jam podcast. I'm Beth Stallwood, founder of Create WorkJoy, and your host for this conversation with the fantastic Hannah-Ruth Moore. Now, Hannah has got such an exciting story to tell. She started off her career as a professional dancer in the West End. I get very excited in this episode talking to her because the West End Theatre is a place that I just absolutely love. Totally one of my happy places and one of the things that brings me an enormous amount of joy. And recently, Hannah's gone into the world of entrepreneurialism, and is that even a word? Have I made that up? Maybe. And she now runs an online gym business, and really interesting to see the transition and how that can bring you some joy, and how we don't always have to stay in the same thing that we started off in. So I really enjoyed this conversation with Hannah-Ruth. I hope you do too. And I'm going to pop on at the end and just give you a few bits of thoughts and summaries from what I thought about the conversation. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the WorkJoy Jam. This week, I'm so excited to be joined by Hannah-Ruth Moore. Hannah-Ruth is going to talk to us all about her career and her business and her route into being an entrepreneur. And I'm really excited to be part of this conversation. So rather than me introducing Hannah-Ruth, I'm going to hand over to you, Hannah. Tell us a bit more about you and a bit more about your story so far.
Hi, Beth. Thank you for having me. And gosh, introduction. It's always pressure when you have to introduce yourself because you think, okay, right, who am I? What am I doing? So,
Yeah.
I come from a professional dancing background. So I've been dancing since the age of 3 in tap, jazz, ballet, contemporary, and sport. So both I did hand in hand for a long time. I always felt most comfortable. I always say, in the PE sports hall or in the dance studio. That's where I said I thrived, and so it naturally I just progressed into pursuing it as a professional career. And yeah, little did I know it is a great industry, but it's a lot of say was it peaks and lows. And I gained an agent and did the various things. And I ended up landing a Michael Jackson show about 2 years after graduating from the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts in Liverpool, which was great. I enjoyed my time there. And it was a great experience, traveling around the world and performing and just seeing how people respond. Like, one thing is music and dance unites. Like, everyone speaks the same language when it comes to music and dance, if that makes sense. It unites people. So that was brilliant. And then on the West End stage, which was one of my dreams, or my goals to tick off. And then as time went on, I naturally progressed into wanting to share what dance has done for me, because I always say that dance was something that helped me grow in confidence and self-esteem. And I really saw what it had done for me for my mental well-being. So and my brother, who comes from a professional sports background and was in the United States of America, over there on a scholarship, again in similar industries. When we decided to just join forces, we always say we were like, they're great careers. However, you have to have thick skin, and it brought us a lot of, I suppose, the dance and sport was also a great healer for us. It helped us to express ourselves, to how to present ourselves, how to what's the word? How to just another extension of ourselves. That's the best way to explain it. So
Yeah.
let's start a business where we can relay that to other people. And so yeah, we set up a business that is called Sayaw, and we use it to help people's mental and physical well-being. So that's where my journey has kind of gone through to today.
Oh, it's such an amazing story. And you are on my list of people who have fulfilled one of my dreams that I haven't fulfilled, which is performing on the West End stage. I totally get that music and dance and sport are those things that really, really unite people together. And often people ask me the question, do you speak another language? And I say, well, I can speak the language of music because that's the only other language I'm actually a little bit fluent in. Everything else I'm a bit rubbish at. So I love it. And your story is so interesting there about kind of doing it naturally, going into it, and then really, wow, achieving your dreams and understanding those things, traveling, performing. And talk to me a little bit more, because I love what you're talking about here about dance or sport or whatever it is in that world being that extension of yourself, and how it's so good for your mental health. I'm sure people can really relate to things like that being amazing for your physical health, because you have to be in
Yeah.
like peak physical condition to perform on the West End stage, right? It is not an easy physical job to do. So just talk to me a little bit more about that extension and the mental health side of it. I'd be fascinated to hear more.
Yeah, so like you said, it's like it's obvious, when you're in those industries in that career, the physical benefits will come. They come automatically. That's not something you have to really, you have to work at it. However, it just comes with the territory. However, the mental side, it was something that I only realized later on, and um, when I was growing up, like most young people, you sometimes can be a bit shy, or and you find a hobby where you're able that you find comfort in, and that you're
Yeah.
able to like be yourself, or for some reason that confidence that you're looking for, or that kind of that light that you're looking for, you find it in that, whatever that hobby may be. And I think I found that I enjoy, and that's not, but I just enjoy being active. I enjoy moving. It helps. I found over the years it helps me to lower my stress levels. It helps to some days, like in my work day, working from home, just being able to move for that 5 or 10, 15 minutes just helps. I just find that it's like a breath of fresh air. And so as I was going through my career, realizing that actually as well, mentally, this really does help me, but not in the routine way, more in the let go way, like the putting on a song and moving to it, and just dancing and not worrying about the moves or it being perfect. I had to learn to almost freestyle again, and unlearn like technique, because I
Yeah.
developed learning technique, ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, which I love those styles. However, if I put on music sometimes, an audition, and they say freestyle, it's like, okay, it's like, show me who you are, not the technique that ballet comes with, or the technique that contemporary comes with, or the tricks that you can do. And it's like, okay, and that's something that I've had to learn over the years. So it's a very, if I'm making sense, it really helps you to open up and learn about like how you move and how you're feeling. It's a great way to do that.
It's amazing. And yeah, I love that idea that and I think sometimes people think you have to be, and I know I used to think this, you have to be really good at something to enjoy it. But
Mhm.
actually, what you're saying there is it's not about all the technique, it's not about the routine, it's not about the, kind of the formality of the learning of the actual kind of dancing skill. It's
Mhm.
about using dance as a way of being who you are and freeing yourself and giving yourself that opportunity. I personally am a massive fan of dancing around the kitchen like an absolute
Mhm.
lunatic. There is something that I totally agree with. There's something really freeing about that. There's something very fun and joyful about that. Just 5 minutes of put a great tune on and see where you can go, and you don't have to be brilliant at it. And also just
Mhm.
kind of reflecting, I had a conversation with some great friends who used to do dramery things with the other night on a Zoom chat, and we were saying how much we miss tap dancing. And none of us have tap danced in years, but that idea of how wonderful it feels to do some of those dancing things, I really, really can relate to that. And here's a question for you. As someone who's been like at the top of your game, you've been on the West End stage, you've toured, you've done like amazing things in dance. I'm really interested in people who take their hobbies and make them their careers.
Mm.
And I imagine there's like an amazing amount of joy within that. But also, tell me about the stuff that maybe is quite hard when you make your hobby your career.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. So like I was saying to you, when I started out, so from a young age, going to my local dance school, how many times a week, 6 times a week, and dancing, that was, it was my hobby. I enjoyed doing it. I took exams, yearly exams. However, it was very different when I decided it was okay, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to try this as my career. I want this to be something that I can enjoy, but also earn money from, something that I can earn a living from, and be stable from. So that when I made that decision, and then first went to the Brit School for Performing Arts, that was my first kind of school training, or I say second kind of school training. I loved it, but it was like, okay, other people who share the same passion of you, but it was very intense. You're
Yeah.
about 18 of you in a year. It was like, okay, right, this is, it's a competitive industry. It's a very competitive industry, and it's you have to be ready when it's your time to shine. And then again, moving to Liverpool, I'm going to the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, which is Paul McCartney's institute for music, dance, acting. I mean, again, it was 3 years there. I loved it. However, the level again went up. The bar was raised,
Mm.
and um, so when you love something, yes, a hobby is great, but then when it becomes your career, the stakes are higher, and I would say the joy won't is not always there. I'm going to be honest. I often had to continue to remind myself that, you know, that what's the word? Although I'm doing this as a career, like there is what's the word, that like, I'm good enough. I had to constantly always remind myself that, because you're around so many people and so many different people that look different to you or similar to you, and it's constant comparison. And I definitely had to, what's the word, build up resilience, build up confidence and self esteem, and yeah, continue working those things. It's not a destination. It's a process, and even to today, I'm still doing that. So yeah, it was tough going to many 6 auditions a week. Sometimes I think,
Yeah.
and you know, out of those 6 auditions, you get through one, and then that one you get to the end, and then you just miss out, and you spent
Yeah.
maybe 3-4 hours in the audition, or 2 days, across 2 days or 3 days, and you're pouring out. When you're doing something artistic, you can't not put your heart into it. It just it's impossible. Do you know what I mean? So emotionally, I would say it was at times draining. So it was important to always check in with myself, speaking to my family members, and friends, and just always checking in that my mental health was intact, and taking that time for myself, because
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I always think a lot of what we see about other people in their careers, like we sit and see we could see you on stage, whether that be on tour or in the West End, thinking, "Wow, look, you've made it," or "You're at this like peak of your career, and isn't it incredible how talented you are?" And what we don't see in that success of other people is the hard graft and the hard yards and the hard work and the kind of giving and the not getting it and going through that whole
Mhm.
process before you even get to that moment. We just see the end result.
Yeah,
And I can totally appreciate how hard some of that stuff must be, because you're right. If you're doing that artistic stuff, you can't do it half-heartedly. You have to really give of yourself. And I can imagine that kind of doing auditions, going through that process, I imagine you've experienced some rejection through
yeah.
that time, and that can be really tough on your mental health, right?
Definitely. And I think one thing I had to learn is that you had to learn that you cannot take the rejection personally, which that I'm not going to sit here and pretend and say, oh yeah, once I figured that out, it was fine. No, that it's a process. No one, rejection isn't a nice thing, but it's not a person. It's just not personal. And I would say when you're going into those type of industries, it's important to know yourself. And I'm not. What does that mean? It's just to know, who you are, your values, where you come from, and also when you're auditioning for a job, I had to also learn was that you're also auditioning the job. Just like when you go to a job interview and you feel like, okay, do you know what? I quite like this role, and I think this could be for me. But if it's kind of you realize that it's not maybe something that the road that you want to go down, or it's it's what's the word? It's in the same. field of what you've been studying for years, you'd probably be like, you know what, this is probably not best for me. I had to learn to also audition the job myself, and that's not in a big
Yeah.
interview. That's just you've got to know what works for you. You know, I'm not a prima ballerina, so you know, as much as you want a dance job, I had to quickly learn that you can't audition for any and everything because it's just not. You know, that's just not your that's not my calling, but that's okay. Like that's not. It's good to know what you like, what you enjoy, and what you're good at. And of course, you can improve in things and learn and gain new, you know, skills, dance genres along the way. But yeah, the rejection was is I had to see it from a different point of view. You know, you win some, you lose some, and sometimes it is that simple. But those are very teachable moments that have like I wouldn't be who I am today. I feel that you know I've built up a lot of resilience, which at times you feel, you know, I wondered, oh gosh, why this? But I look back and I think, gosh, you know, it's helped me as an entrepreneur running a business. It's helped me when I teach, you know, young people and speaking to them about their goals and their dreams. Just, you know, that resilience is something that you're going to build along the way, and that's good. That's okay. Those rejections build you up, and yeah, will make you who you are.
I love that perspective on it. And I love also that you said, you know, it's not like you're okay with rejection. It's just that you've learned a process of being able to do it. It's not like one day you go, yeah, I'm just fine with it, because that's not the way our brains work. And I also love this concept of you're auditioning them as much as they're auditioning you. And there's so much translation there over into the corporate world, or the worlds of different types of work,
Mhm.
where often we might sit there and think, oh, at this interview I've got to do a really good job because I've got to be impressed with me. And I'm like, actually I need to be impressed with who I'm going to work for as well, and what they're looking for, and how we can work together, and really taking that attitude that it is finding both of those sides, and that partnership, is it going to work for you?
Yeah.
And also this idea of like being resilient to it and being okay with that, and understanding that it is part of the processes, and it's part of what, you know, that old phrase, which I know is totally overused, but I'm going to say it now, of what doesn't kill you makes you a bit stronger, is it leads you in different directions, and potentially the right direction for you.
Definitely. No, I agree. And that saying is funny. My mentor was saying this to me a couple of weeks ago. And you know that sometimes you can hear something one day and it's like, oh, like, you know, she said it's like, it can be a bit cheesy. You hear it before, but then there's some days you hear a simple quote that you've heard many times and it's like, you know what? Yeah, that is true. Sometimes it is just that simple, if that makes sense. Not harsh, but just it hasn't, you know, you've bounced back, so it's gonna make you stronger. It has to, because do you know what I mean? You've survived it. It's so yeah, I agree with you. I just think there's a lot of times I think, yeah, well, I'm still here and I'm still going. I'm still getting up and I'm still going to this audition. I'm
Yeah,
still I'm still in the industry. I'm still going for it. So it's made me stronger. So yeah, that's what I
love that. And you know, whether you're working in that artistic world, or whether you're working in a corporate job, or whether you're working at a local firm, there's all of these things exist in every walk of working life, right? There is always competition, there's always rejection. There are different levels, but there is always these things that we have to do. And I think what's really interesting here is, you know, you talk about when you were at the Brit School, and when you talk about going to Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, which I didn't get into, by the way. I did apply, so I'm again, you know, very envious of your wonderful talent. Is you are amongst the other talented people. You are there, and it must be. I can just imagine myself in that
Mm.
situation and thinking, wow, how much of an imposter syndrome would I have when I was surrounded by such talent in all different ways? That must have been like a really interesting experience for you.
It was. I've got a little secret for you, and little plug. I the recent blog that I've just written, which is on our website, which is sayaw.co.uk. I wrote about my I call it my journey from confidence to faith. And I actually, when I auditioned for the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, let's call it LIPA for
Yeah.
short sake, I didn't get in straight away, so I was put on the reserve list. And so there was a good few months in the summer where I was like, okay, right, there's other schools I can get into. However, this was the one I wanted to go to. To keep, long story short, I 3 days before enrollment, I got a phone call, and they were like, "Hey, Hannah, we want to offer you a place. Can you move up to Liverpool? And I was like, I will never forget that day because I was with I was with my grandma, and I don't think she knew what I was like what I was doing, or maybe, but she didn't really know like if what I was doing, if that makes sense. She didn't really know the ins and outs of the career that I was, pursuing and blah blah blah. When I found out, I was just so happy, and she just grabbed me and hugged me. She just grabbed, and she was so happy. Like I remember being like, she's so happy, like, but she doesn't even really know what, like that joy that I'm like. I can't explain it. She was sharing the joy with me, but she had no idea
Yeah.
it was so joyful. But I remember that moment, and I was like, I just packed up my stuff in 3 days, moved up, found a flat, last minute, and that was it. And my 3 years started from there of training, and yeah, it was just I never looked back really. Yeah.
I am like totally goosebumping right now about the story, about that moment of like not knowing and then being 3 days before. And um, it obviously, like if we're thinking about it in the fate kind of way, it was
Yeah.
obviously meant to be, right? You were supposed to be there. And that idea of the shared joy moment is so relevant to everything we talk about in the work joy way of life, is that actually joy
Mm,
is really catching. And
yeah.
just because she didn't understand maybe the detail of what you were doing, or how what it meant for your career or your future, or understanding that, the shared joy there must have been just incredible if you're still remembering it now.
Yes, definitely. It will always be a memory. And like you said, so with work joy, I just think I was saying to you about bringing back the joy. I don't know about finding it, but bringing it back, because we all experience joy in, why we decided you wanted to be a lawyer, or I don't know, an entrepreneur, or you know, what I mean, I'm trying to think, like we all find that, like, came to that point where we're like, "Do you know what, this is what I want to do." And
Yeah.
like you said, that point of where I was doing it as a hobby, and then it was like, okay, reality, this is work, this is a career. Of course, it wasn't joyful all the time. In fact, there wasn't. Sometimes I dare say the highs are very good, but the lows were very low as well. But I constantly had to find that joy. I had to find the joy within dance, whether that was putting on a song and just freestyling it, whether it was going to do that, to that class that I really enjoy, that just awakens my soul and reminds me, oh, yeah, this is why I do it. Or, when I'm teaching a class full of women and they're just dancing, enjoying, having fun, sweating, and yeah, that is the biggest reminder. Look at the power of dance. Or the power of when you have a gift and you're sharing that gift, like, and spreading the joy. It's one of the best things.
Yeah, amazing. There's a few things I want to pick up on there, so I'm going to try and do them and remember all of them as I go through. The first one is this, right? So often we find, many people I talk to, find this, is that you find a career you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And if you're people, it's really lucky if you find you're able to have a passion in your career and you get there. But over time, I think
Mhm.
sometimes some of the shine comes off, and you might have found this as well, is that it's very easy to fall out of love with
Mhm.
what you do. And I'm just really interested there about you saying, there are highs, and there always are, and there are always lows. And in every job and in every circumstance, in every organization, with every person, there is no such thing as 100% joy. And
Yeah.
also, you wouldn't feel the joy as heavily, I don't think, if you had it all the time. It's like that moment of joy is amazing.
Mhm.
So sometimes you need the lows to feel the highs. But what happens, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you have, I'd love to hear more about it. If you start to fall a little bit out of love, or you can't find the passion for what you're doing, have you ever been through that experience?
Yes, no, definitely. And I was talking to a good friend about it the other day. I think so. Passion, yeah, it is a great thing when you're passionate about something. And I'd say I'm passionate about dance. I'm passionate about sport. But I do it day in and day out, and I've been doing it for, gosh, very long
Yeah.
time now. And I think there's moments I've had to take a step back. I've had to take a step back and look at why, and go back to my why, go back to why I'm doing it, why I love it. Also, maybe what I don't like about it, because we have to also be real that the career that we've chosen, as you said, there's not there's some things about it that we don't really like, and you can't pretend or hide from it, hide from those things. I had to learn that actually, that there's some things about the dance industry that I don't particularly like all those things about it. However, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You know what I mean? And I have to just, okay, this is not so great about it. Go back to the drawing board. What do I love about it? Okay, how can I like take this and use it, whether that be again using it to impact other people, or journaling and writing down, like every day or every couple of days, writing down, what was great about this day, and what was, I think sometimes when I'm teaching young people and I see them make the connection about a certain step that I'm teaching them, or a certain routine, and you see it's like, okay, that was really great. Oh, I love that. I saw that they're getting it, like they're making that connection between, I don't know, like the upper body and the lower body, or they're
Yeah.
understanding like dynamics and like the different types of dynamics. You're like, okay, like this, like, that is really, so basically in a nutshell, pinpointing what you enjoy about it, and yeah, and the things that you don't enjoy about it, you just have to, yeah, you have to, I think, accept it and decide whether that's something you can cope with or move forward with, or if it's something that you can't, then maybe change, pivot. We've had to all pivot a lot this year, so
Yeah.
yeah, just pivoting and yeah, being innovative.
It's so interesting you say that, because I talk about those things as like work joy, one side of it, and the other side I call it work gloom, which is the
Mm,
stuff that you don't like, you don't enjoy, and there's bits in every industry and every job and every role that people don't like. There's even when you get to choose and you're an entrepreneur and you're choosing your own things, there's still stuff within that that is hard and annoying, and stuff that you don't like or don't enjoy. And I love what you're talking about there, and it's a big part of our coaching program when we run the WorkJoy way, is actually tracking and understanding more and connecting with those things that do bring you joy, and understanding that those can be little tiny moments,
yes.
like you said there, like seeing one of your students get it for the first time, or kind of nail a routine, or connect something together that's not been there before. And those little moments are so important to understand. I
Yeah.
think our brains are really wired for negativity, and for we remember the bad stuff more than we remember the moments of good stuff. So taking that time to think, to consider, to reflect on what did bring you joy is amazing. So totally love that within your story. The other thing that I'm really interested in, and I think we've obviously touched on it already, but I want to go a bit deeper into it, is this subject of when you have a passion, when you find something joyful,
Mhm.
how do you share it with others? And the impact that sharing joy can have, both on your own joy and on joy for other people. So tell me a little bit more about you and how you share this, and how you have shared it, and how you're sharing the joy of dance and sport now.
um so perform, I think sometimes, or with, when you have a career, when you're on your journey, it's a lot to do with yourself, which is normal and makes sense, because you can, what's the word, it's you that have chosen this path, and you're on it, so, and you're experiencing it. But so I spent many years performing and dancing and training, and it was all about, I'd say, all about me. And there were times I got to a point where I did want to kind of take the limelight off of me, because you get so much energy, and I say, like, you reminders of why you do what you do from actually seeing other people do it. And I went in, going into teaching and running a business with my brother. That's one thing that I realized was, when I was teaching classes and you see women or young people enjoying themselves, it was a big like shift, like, do you know, yeah, like this, there's also a joy in taking what you've learned and transferring it to others, or helping it to, for others to impact and put it in their lives. So whether that be, I said, like dances, I'd meet many women that would say, oh, I used to love dance, and when I was younger I used to dance, but, and I used to always wonder what that but was, because many women, like, they enjoy dancing and wanted to maybe pursue it as a career, but there was that, the journey changed, blah blah blah. And I said, but however, I said, just used to think, but you don't have to stop dancing. And I used to think that, like, who says there's only one way of doing things?
Mm.
I used to think, who said there's only, okay, dancer, like, okay, become a professional dancer? No, there's many women that are great dancers and great dance teachers as
Mm.
well. There's people who teach dance amazingly, and if they can have the opportunity to become qualified as an instructor and teach that and train, train other people, young people up, I think, that's a great thing. So I think it was there, that moment of just realizing that, like, I get so much energy from this, and sometimes it's more fulfilling. It can be more fulfilling than when you're doing it yourself, or when you're on that stage and there's crowds of people clapping. Like, that is amazing. However, seeing what it does for someone in just like a very small way, and they can't keep coming back, and they come back, and they want to learn how to do it. And so yeah, doing that with alongside my brother and creating these programs where we teach people, but then also there's people that come on board with us and they learn. We've trained them up and they're learning how to deliver dance or Muay Thai or fitness sessions. It's and then they can take it with them and do the same. It was yeah, like a natural progression. So building programs, doing that, and now obviously doing it online, and yeah, it
Love
was.
it. And I'm I think, and I'm reflecting on this here, and like I love to dance around the kitchen. I also used to dance a lot. Like I did all the go to drama school, do the dancing, the tap, the ballet, all the things that you did. And you asked that question of like, where does the butt come from?
Mm,
And I think there is a lot of things that our careers stop us from doing at some point, or our mindset stop us from doing. So many people end up, you do your qualifications, whether that's like after school or university, whatever it is, and you get into a career and you focus, you focus so heavily on kind of you and your career, etc. And
mhm.
almost those things that used to bring us joy, like going to a dance class or going to a sports thing or doing something that when you're a kid, you're really encouraged to have hobbies and to kind of spend time and to make the most of those things. And even when I think about now, some of my best groups of friends are from those hobbies that I did,
Yeah.
way back when. And then, on my journey, and I'd be interested to hear from our audience whether it's similar to theirs, is that you kind of get into working. And if your work isn't one of those hobbies and you haven't managed to make that transition for many reasons, maybe you don't want to, maybe there's lots of different things there
Mhm.
into it, is that they almost kind of fall by the wayside for a while you're trying to kind of work through your career. And I wonder how great it could be. And I'm going to ask you more details about it because I'm so fascinated about what you're offering now and like totally on board with it. But I wonder how many people kind of have a resurgence at some point in their career or at some point in their lives
Mm.
where they go, hang on, that thing that brought me loads of joy 20 years ago, why did I stop? Why can't I just try that again? And with the attitude now that I don't have to be good at it to enjoy it, I don't have to be in the top class, I don't have to be focusing on it being a career, I can just do it for the joy of it. And how wonderful an experience that could be. So it's making me really, really think. But let's not talk about me anymore. Let's talk more about you. So you are now in business with your brother. So family business, amazing, entrepreneurial business. And you are putting out there into the world dance and sport and fitness and all of those things. Tell us more about that, and especially like you've had to pivot, as you talked about, into
Mhm.
the online world. Where are you focusing? What are you doing with the business? How are you kind of serving people with sport and with dance in that digital way?
Yeah, so we were, like most people, doing things face to face, and then we had to change it up. And I think last year, what, I can't speak for everyone, but one thing that we all possibly got to do was take a step back and look at,
Yeah.
okay, what am I doing, reflect, and that we definitely had that moment, which I'm really glad and pleased that we did, because again, it's like I was saying earlier, there's more than one way of doing things. And that's like, okay, online. Okay, how do you deliver sport and dance online? And we didn't really we think about it too much, but we just tested it. So we did Instagram lives, we did the
Yeah.
Zoom, and then um like us, there was many people like us who do what we do. So that's instructors teaching martial arts or dance and fitness, who their life came to a halt. And it's like, okay, well, how do we we still want to serve people with, and be for them to be able to access these things. Why don't we just come together? So we moved online and created this platform, Free Mind Body, where it's called the virtual membership. And the best way to describe it is like a, a Netflix style fitness subscription, and it's so people can access Muay Thai classes, dance classes, yoga, Pilates, strength and conditioning, live stream from different instructors, great instructors, all from just their laptop, their phone, and they get a link sent straight to them. So, and then if they miss a class, they can catch up on demand. So that we just decided, okay, let's create this platform where people can access that. And also another thing we wanted people to be able to do was, whether you're a mum, dad, family, by yourself, if you're flatmates, that being able to take part in those classes together. So, a mother, mum doing a Muay Thai class, like possibly before this, she possibly wouldn't have gone into that environment, maybe because she might have felt intimidated, or she might have not felt that that was, you know, for her. However, now we have mums who can take part in a Muay Thai class with her daughter, with her son, or where they can do a Pilates class together. That is another moment of joy that I really love seeing, is that happening, like the age gap, the barriers just being broken and being able to access those things online. So yeah, it's the 30-day free trial, and people can just sign up for those 30 days and give it a try, and then it's 14.99 after that. And then we just have a Facebook community group where we just talk and share fitness tips and health and nutrition tips and well-being tips, and just chat. Like yesterday was pancake day, so we all showed our pancakes. Just still feel connected, but obviously in a virtual way. And it's just, yeah, it's been a journey that I possibly would never have thought we would have been on. However, yeah, it's brilliant, and I just look forward to what it evolves into.
I was going to say, I mean, it is amazing going from, you know, the things you've done in your career so far, being on the stage, doing the dancing yourself, going through into teaching live. And then one of the things I'm just really thinking about here is, if you get immense amount of joy, which it sounds like you do, from sharing your talent with others and sharing that experience and the love that you have for dance with other people, is when you do it digitally, how many more people you can potentially work with than you could ever do when you were live in person.
Exactly. No, it's true. Like, what's great about this and what we say is that this can be accessed all around the world, and we want everyone to be able to access this and experience this. Because yeah, dance, like, I don't dance, fitness, sport is not. It's for everyone, and I think sometimes maybe today's world it can feel like it's for a certain niche of people. However, it is for everyone. Like, everyone can do it, and you do what you can, and finding your hobby again. Like, I honestly believe that through this, people can find their hobby again, that reignite it 20 years later, like you said, or yeah, and just taking that time for themselves. Because now we're maybe navigating a new way, we're having to step back and really, you know, take time for ourselves and do the things we enjoy, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes, whether it's a colouring, like colouring. My mum's now going back into colouring, and she really
Yeah.
enjoys it, and I enjoy her seeing her do that. Um, or meditating, or just you and your cup of tea in the morning, those 15 minutes just by yourself with that cup of tea. If that, what I mean, if that brings you joy, then yeah, I think we're all learning how to do that again.
Yeah, and learning how to live in this kind of slightly new crazy world. And
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of people who are talking about kind of when things go back to normal, and I'm not sure that things will ever go back to normal. I think we'll go forward in maybe a slightly different way. But I'm just thinking here, reflecting, it's currently half term when we're recording this episode, and all of those parents out there who have been homeschooling and working and trying to do everything,
Mhm.
and I'm just sitting here like smiling at the idea of like a family unit all putting on a dance class or doing some meditation together, or some of the martial arts things, and just giving it a try, like having a
Yeah.
dabble in something, and not having any pressure on yourself to like be awesome at it, but to just take it and enjoy it, and maybe have that family unit doing stuff, or having, you know, yourself and some flatmates, or just like that moment for yourself you're talking about. I think it could bring people some real joy, and it sounds like it's bringing you immense joy. And I'm sure, like I say, it's bringing you immense joy to do it, and which I'm sure it is, but I'm sure it's also like really hard work to kind of build this online platform, to build a whole new way of working your business.
No, definitely. Yeah, no, Beth, you've just hit the nail on the head when you're speaking about the family. Like even that makes me smile, just because my my way into sport and dance was through my dad and my mum introducing it to me. So as in I used to go, right, that sounds crazy, but like I used to enjoy going to the park with my dad and running with my dad and bike riding with my dad, or like it sounds even crazy, but like we go and do this thing called we lift logs, and we sometimes train with logs. I know that sounds crazy, but I've it is
Sounds
good.
fun.
It is fun, but what my point was that my introduction into sport, into just moving, was from my dad, if that makes sense. So that's the that's the main key point from this, is just that, you know, doing something with your mum or with your friend or with your partner, with your, children, when they see you doing something, and vice versa, it's a good memory. That's a good memory, and I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because it was good. It was a sweet memory for me doing those things with my dad, and then also with my brother. So it just it just manifested into this today. So I'm not surprised that we want to get all the families in the UK moving. Do you know what I mean? And doing a bit
Yeah.
of martial arts, doing a bit of dance, and yeah. So I think I missed your question, but you said something else.
I'm just totally enjoying the conversation around like taking that memory, something that you had in your childhood which is so joyful, and you've now turned it into a business and something that you can get loads and loads of joy out of, and something that becomes part of your career. And it's so great to hear all of your story, and I, you know, wishing you huge amounts of luck, and I think it's going to be a great thing that you're getting out there, and your energy and your passion for it is so obvious. And it's really lovely to hear that, you know, you've been through things where you've been rejected, and you've been through real life stuff about joy and not joy, and finding things tough, and it's not all roses all the time, but yet you can still focus on and find that joy. I do have for you a few quick fire questions. Are you up for me firing some questions at you?
I am ready. I'm ready for it.
Cool. So my first one is, for you personally, what is always guaranteed to bring you a little bit of work joy?
Dancing in my bedroom randomly. That's what it's going to be. Yeah.
Me too. I do it in the kitchen, but yeah, you know, random dancing is always good for your soul, right? It's like part of the human condition. We love it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Question two. Tell us about a book you're currently reading, or a podcast, or a TED talk, or something that you would recommend to our listeners.
I'm currently reading a book called British by, I want to pronounce it correctly, Afua Hirsch. It's just on race, identity, and belonging. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's a very good book. So yeah, check it out.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll give that a read. I'm gonna we'll put the book into the notes on the Instagram post, etc., so that people can link through to it. Next one is, for you in your life so far, what's the best or the most useful bit of advice that someone else has given you that you always keep coming back to?
Hmm, that is a good question. Do you know? I'm gonna say there's only one you. Like, believe it or not, there is only one you. So, and everyone has a place in this world. So there's times when you feel like, oh gosh, why should I do this? Or I don't think I can. Like, there's only one you, and only you can do what you can do.
Yeah,
So yeah, I constantly remind myself that is and that, and take each day. The last year, I've just my slogan for the year has been, just take each day, just take each day. Yeah.
uh, And they're both amazing bits of advice, and it's so true. There is only ever one you, and so do the things that you want to do. Great stuff there, and yeah, definitely take each day, especially in the current world. So for our listeners, what is one really practical, super easy to do bit of advice that you could give them that you think would help them get a bit of joy in their lives?
Take between 5 to 15 minutes of time for just you. So whether that's in the morning, afternoon, or in the evening, take just 15 minutes for you and to do what you enjoy doing. Like that would be the main thing for me, is find your joy, find it or bring it back.
Yeah. I love the idea of bringing it back. I think that really, really resonates with me, and I'm sure it will do with lots of people. Like, I'm totally wanting to do some dance right now. So before we finish off, thank you so much for being part of the WorkJoy Jam. Where can our audience find out more about you and about your business? And I'm sure many of them will want to go on and sign up to doing some dance and some fitness and some things on your site. So tell us a bit more about where they can find out more about you.
You can find us at www. and that's Sayaw, so that's SAYAW.co.uk. You can check us out in there and check out all the things that we're doing in the virtual membership. But you also can find us on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. That is Sayaw Limited. So you can just check us out on those platforms and take a look.
Brilliant. And we will make sure we link everything together when we promote this and put this out there. So thank you so much, Hannah-Ruth, for joining me, for sharing your amazing, incredible story. And I'm so excited to see what's to come for you in the next phase. So thank you for being on the WorkJoy Jam.
Thank you so much, and thank you for doing this. I love it.
Excellent. Thank you. What an interesting story Hannah has. And there's so many things that I wanted to pick out, and obviously got really excited about her background in the West End and everything she's doing. But there are a few things for me that really stood out. And I think one of them is this idea that she talks about, like, where do you find the light? And if you can't find that light at work, where else are you finding it? Do you invest time in things that you enjoy doing? You know, the idea of the hobbies. And I know myself, and I know many people, when you get stuck in work and life and family life and responsibilities and everything that fits under the adulting box, it's sometimes that we really forget what those hobbies are. We forget what lights us up. And I just love the idea of really getting into it and finding your groove in that world as well as at work. And I think the other things that really stood out for me was right at the end, we were talking there, and I was just, really taken by it, is this idea that we should all remember, and it's so obvious, that there's only one of us, there's only one of you, and that everyone in the world has a place. And it's about taking each day and thinking about that why. What is it that's driving you? Finding that space, being yourself and being true to those things. And I really love that advice from Hannah-Ruth. So thank you, Hannah-Ruth, for being a podcast guest. I wish you massive amounts of success in your new venture of the online gym. We'll put the details in the show notes so that everyone can have a look at what you're up to. In terms of WorkJoy, do make sure you are following at Create WorkJoy on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. And if you want to find out more, you can always sign up to our newsletter. It's only once a month, so we won't bombard you with too much information. And you can also head to our website, createworkjoy.com, to find out more about my 16-week signature coaching program. If you're interested in digging a bit deeper with me as a coach, with some experiments, with a community of other people trying to create and cultivate some more joy in their working life. So whatever job you do, wherever you work, whatever industry you're in, wherever you are, whatever stage in your career, it's something that can really help you to discover a bit more about what you can do and the actions that you can take in your world. And also you can find out more about our club WorkJoy, which is a growing and fantastic community of people who want to create more joy in their working life, and some things to help you do that. Thanks very much for listening today. I'm Beth Stallwood, the host of the WorkJoy Jam, and I hope you enjoy listening to some of our other episodes. Thank you.